great military commander, a national hero, and a controversial Prime Minister. The career of the Duke of Wellington is chronicled in a new exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery. Victory against Napoleon at Waterloo 200 years ago earned him the thanks of a grateful nation.
It's a portrait by Thomas Lawrence. It is, I hesitate to use the word iconic, but it's perhaps one of the most recognisable images of the Duke of Wellington.
But alongside the portraits are some less flattering depictions. The ruckus was caused by Conservative Prime Minister Wellington's forcing through a measure to end centuries of discrimination against Roman Catholics. So contentious, it split his party too. This cartoon here, this is Wellington fighting a duel in Battersea Park. And this really happened, didn't it?
Oh, it did, yeah. This happened while he was Prime Minister. Lord Winchelsea had published a letter in a newspaper which asserted that Wellington had acted dishonestly in his pursuance of the Catholic Emancipation Bill. Wellington took that as a slight and a duel was fought. Wellington's shown here as a lobster. That's an insulting name for a British soldier because of the colour of the lobster and the colour of the soldier's coat, but of course it really suits his profile with the hooked nose. And he's also wearing a Catholic monk's robes and has a crucifix around his waist.
But he opposed wider political reform, rejecting calls to end the practice of rotten boroughs sending MPs to Parliament. Riots ensued, and his government later fell.
There's just these two words here, Waterloo Idol. Wellington's this figure in the red coat on his knees, and he's complaining that John Bull is mistreating his Waterloo Idol. So it's clear that by 1830, all the lustre, all the glory that he'd accumulated from his Waterloo victory has virtually disappeared.
He was not, as it were, a virgin in politics when he entered the cabinet in 1818, but it was not particularly relevant. But sadly, by then his conservatism meant that he couldn't cope with the social changes and the demands for political reform. Although the one shining light that stands out against all of this is, of course, his support of Catholic emancipation, which absolutely outraged a very significant minority of the Tory party on whose support he relied.
But towards the end of his life, Wellington was remembered not for his politics, but for his comforting appeal as a great British military hero during changing times. And today, Wellington's remembered in all sorts of different ways. Wellington was so popular that streets, schools, and even pubs were named after him. The Wellington Hotel's ceiling has murals depicting his most famous battle and stands close to London's Waterloo Station. Ultimately, it was that great victory which cemented Wellington's place in our history.